People who are mediocre seek comfort. You have to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
The number one fear in the world is not death, it's public speaking. That fear of being uncomfortable. We might have therapy on here, man. I don't even know if multitasking is really a real thing.
People think that they can multitask, but in reality, you can only do one thing at a time.
If you multitask, you're actually not doing either one of them great.
70% of the time when people try to change, they fail.
Success comes in preparation.
Okay.
Do you think that you could be the president?
Yeah, I've had enough money. I might actually have to run. What's up? I'm Keith.
And I'm D, back for another episode of the Defiant Life podcast, where today we actually talk about the laws of mediocrity.
There you go.
So we are going to get into it. We said at the top, it's like our tagline. And
what is the tagline? Because you didn't actually say it.
Yeah, because we're going to get into it.
Okay.
We like to defy the laws of mediocrity.
There you go.
Actually, I was looking up the word mediocre and what that meant.
Mm-hmm.
Looked it up in the Latin because I'm deep like that, right?
So your kids looked it up for you. That's what you're saying.
Right.
Okay.
How is Latin a dead language? It's not dead when we use it all the time in the medical field, right? I guess it's not a practicing conversational, relational, colloquial, that sounds right, language.
Yeah, I don't know.
I look to our producer Russ for stuff like that because he knows everything. Anyway, and the word means, it's a couple things. It means middle, and also it means like middle of a mountain, which is really cool to me.
Okay.
And it had a little excerpt. It said, the middle of the mountain is neither up nor down. It's just the middle. And I was like, okay, when you look at a mountain, when you look at it, at the vastness of it, the size, the apex and everything, or you look at how big it is at the bottom and stuff, and how often do you look at the middle of a mountain?
I don't know. I live by the beach. So,
Okay.
Yeah, we don't have mountains here.
Okay.
So
anyway, I just want to throw that out there. So mediocre. So to be mediocre comes from the word to mean middle, to be lost in the shuffle, so to speak.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. So I'm looking forward to getting into breaking some of this down. What does it mean to be mediocre? There might be certain portions of your life, of my life, that I might be living by a mediocre code, and don't even realize it. So let's get into it.
Okay. Cool. So yeah, we came up with like, what are the 10 laws of mediocrity? We're kind of talking about what are the laws of mediocrity? What does that look like? Mm-hmm. And I think there's some major ones that we can get into. So the first one that we talked about was procrastination. People who procrastinate, who are unprepared. And I just looked up some stats on this, and it said that the average person wastes 55 days per year avoiding work that's necessary for them to do.
Yeah, think about that.
That's a lot of time.
Well, let's put it into perspective.
And this isn't just talking about like hanging out, whatever, just relaxing. This is like I'm avoiding something that I have to do.
Procrastination.
55 days out of the year.
So I was talking about this the other day. If I had to be somewhere at 10:30, I'm like, all right, well, I have to leave by 10 o'clock to get by 10:30, and it's 9:30 now, right? And then I keep pushing, and actually I leave 5 minutes after the time. I'm like, well, if I speed, I can get,
Yeah.
So there's 5 minutes right there of wasted time of me getting to where I need to get. So you're saying adding up a whole lot of that wasted time adds up to almost 2 months?
Yeah, that's 2 months every year.
Out of the year.
That is crazy.
Gosh.
It's a lot of time.
That's a lot of time.
Yeah, it is.
Especially when you think about it in terms of how many hours in a day and then in a week and in a month. That's a lot of time wasted. That's some perspective. Okay.
So, but why do you think that people do that?
That's a good question. I think honestly, I think we're lazy. Is what I'm thinking. If I'm thinking about it, because the only reason I procrastinate is if I'm comfortable and I don't feel like doing something at this moment, right? I'm not thinking big picture. I'm thinking the here and now. I'm in my bed. I'm watching the show. I want to finish the show. Life is good. I don't care about changing the world in this moment. I just want to enjoy my first world comforts. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Is one way to look at it, I think.
That's probably true for you. I think for a lot of people it stems from like an anxiety or a fear or, some other place that's not as positive probably.
That's interesting. So they put it off because of fear.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think that's a common thing.
Okay,
Sure.
that's interesting. That's what we're going into. So what you're saying is procrastination. Dang, that can lead into that can bleed into a whole lot of other. We about to have therapy on here, man. My gosh, about to get deep. Okay. What about you? You have areas in your life where you procrastinate, or are there? How does that look?
I'm sure I do. Yeah. I think that when I was younger, it was like, yeah, especially in my 20s when I was in college, I would procrastinate a lot, try to put stuff off to the last minute. I remember the last paper I ever wrote in college was in graduate school. I think it was 26 pages, and I started it at midnight the day before it was due.
Yeah.
Wrote all night long.
Yeah.
And finished it. It was probably terrible. I don't know. I don't remember.
That's why we call you Lionel Richie all night long. But here's the thing. Why did you wait so long, Dad joke?
Because I didn't want to do it.
Why didn't you want to do it?
I don't know. I just didn't want. I guess
Yeah.
I just didn't want to. There was other stuff I wanted to do more.
Right. So that's the thing. You were comfortable and you didn't want to go in. It was pain. It was painful.
That's right. Yeah.
It was painful to do it. So that's where I'm coming from when I say first world comforts. I'm comfortable. For me to get out of my comfort zone equates to pain. Right. And I think as a Western society in the 21st century, and we were talking a little bit about it a little bit before the show, we have come to a place where we can be comfortable, and it's okay to rest and be comfortable. But I think some of that stuff can make us a little bit soft. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, because we can be. So I know with me, one of the things I hate more than anything is to be cold. So if I'm in my bed, comfortable, it's nighttime, and there's something that I have to go get out of the car in the middle of the night, and it's sprinkling outside, listen, if it ain't a baby in the car, it can wait. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
but that's the thing. So that's part of the reason why I started doing some of my disciplines, because I understood, because I was the head procrastinator, right? And I would tell people, I do some of my best work last minute. And you probably thought, he's like, man, I got it done. And it definitely wasn't your best work. And this is one of the things I want to bring up about procrastination is that, so they've done a lot of case studies about people that text and drive, right? And people think that they are just as aware and just as good at driving and awareness when they're not texting as they are when they're texting. That's why people do it. If they really thought that things were at risk, they probably wouldn't do it as much as they did.
Right.
But when they did these case studies, they found time and time again, they would take people through these obstacles and do certain things that their awareness and their overall driving skills greatly diminished. And they didn't realize how much they diminished. Like, they was like, all right, well, maybe a little bit. But then they started actually doing these tests and obstacles and certain things. And it was huge. It was dangerous. So I think what happens is people that text and drive, they thinking that they're doing a good job at multitasking. And I don't even know if multitasking is really a real thing, right?
Yeah, definitely not. It's definitely, I think maybe it's the one thing they talk about this a lot, all the research on multitasking.
Yeah.
And people think that they can multitask, but in reality, you can only do one thing at a time.
And I was talking to my son about this yesterday, actually. And I said, I was trying to multitask. And he was like, well, if you multitask, you're actually not doing either one of them great. I was
That's
like,
right.
You're right.
That's exactly right.
Out of the mouth of babes. So I'm saying all that to say this. So I think that when you're texting and driving, you're multitasking, you're distracted. You might think you're doing a decent job according to the new standard that's been set. Like, I'm doing two things, I'm doing decent at both, instead of moving one out the way and being great at one, right? So there's a distraction with so the same thing I think with doing things last minute and procrastinating, like with your test, with your paper, that 26-page paper, you got it done, but the distraction was stress, right? It's like, okay, let me hurry up and finish this. So now I'm thinking about this stress, I'm thinking about this deadline, and I have to still focus on this paper. And you're not doing as good a job as you think you could. You got it done, but it's not really good enough. It was probably average at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Right. So, and the main reason that you didn't want to do it was that pain of, this is a lot of work.
Yeah.
So that's why I said I started doing my mental disciplines. Once I recognized that, I started doing my mental disciplines, but mainly the cold shower. With that cold shower, it helped me to it was a quick life hack for me to just get into some pain and conquer it. It's like, it's just pain. I'm going to get through it. See you on the other side. And that's helped me so much to quit procrastinating, to quit being led by fear and anxiety and pain, and just being driven by the bigger picture, which is right on the other side of that pain, which is the success, which is the goal that I'm trying to reach. You know. So anyway,
right.
So
that kind of leads into another one that we talked about, which is people who are mediocre seek comfort.
Yeah.
And
seek
I think,
comfort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think and stay in comfort and are afraid to be uncomfortable. I think people have a fear of failure, a fear of risk. That's one part of it. But also just like going out of their comfort zone in general. So like if you want to start a business, just as an example, if you wanted to start a business and doing, I don't care what it is, pressure washing, whatever. So you want to go around and start pressure washing people's houses, but you're not good at sales. You don't like doing sales. You don't want to actually go out and talk to people you don't know and all this kind of stuff. There's no way for you to be successful. You would have to just go and pressure wash somebody's house and then walk away and not get any money, right? So at the end of the day, you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable and talking to people you don't know, knocking on somebody's door you don't know, reaching out to people who don't know you, and then having conversations with them, trying to get them to pay you for your service, right? Pretty much anything that you do, you're going to have to do that.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people are uncomfortable with that. And they're also uncomfortable just not knowing that they're going to have a paycheck or that they're going to be, successful. What would people think if they fail? All this kind of stuff. And I think that sort of all stems from this fear of being uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's probably a really big thing that keeps people mediocre.
Oh my God. Well, I think it's the main reason that they say that the number one fear in the world is not death, it's public speaking. It's that
Right.
It's that fear of being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But why are people uncomfortable? I think part of it is because they feel like they're gonna be exposed. They're gonna feel inadequate.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of that stuff only comes when, and it leads into another what I'm talking about, when it's like a lack of preparation, right? I think it kind of like when people impulsive is what I'm getting to, right? When people are just impulsive with things, and don't prepare, I think that's common. Right. I think people don't do, we talk about it a lot in our real estate coaching and mentoring program with our students, is a lot of people don't do enough of the groundwork, enough behind the scenes work, enough volume of things. They don't have enough practice. They're not well-rounded enough to be successful. They don't really prepare to be a successful whatever they're trying to do, right? And that's a very common thing, especially if you're decent and talented at some stuff, and you feel like you don't have to practice as much, and it just But the other side of impulsive is just doing things on a whim, like you can't. That's not how. Like when you're 12 years old, that's one thing. When what I'm saying, but when you're in the real world, you really do have to prepare. So I'll tell you this quick story also. I was playing in this chess tournament, and this is how it went. I was playing in this chess tournament, and I was playing some of these guys that I see every now and again, and they beat me, and they're not that much better than me. I might even be better than them. I was having an off day, so then later on, I challenged the guy to an online game. We play on our phones a lot. Chess is really blowing up, and
this is like. It's like pickleball for nerds, or what?
Well, chess has been around a whole lot longer than pickleball. So chess has been around since like the 1500s. So anyway, so I was like, hey, let's play online. We can play a certain amount of games. We can set the parameters, all this stuff like that. So he was like, all right, well, let's do it in a couple of days. I want to take some time to study. I was like, whatever. So a couple of days went by, and we started to play, and he whipped me like 5 times in a row. And I really wanted to beat this guy. I was like, I'm better than you. I know I'm better than you. I can see your skill level. You don't make smart moves, but he whipped me. And then at that point, it just dawned on me that it doesn't matter how bad you want something, you have to prepare to be successful.
Yeah.
Success comes in preparation. All of my friends growing up wanted to either play in the NBA or the NFL, right? Did they put in the work to get to become that caliber player? No.
Yeah.
we didn't have a whole lot of people before us that made it to that level. So we didn't know how much work it really took to get to that point.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So we weren't even surrounded by that level of success. So we didn't know what it really took to get there.
Right.
That's a big thing too.
Yeah. Well, I think whenever we were looking at the school, that we started a couple of years ago, we were researching. I had a question that I was asking people around me. So, like, if you had your child or other people's children, whatever, and you wanted to teach them to be happy and successful adults, what would you teach them? And so it's a couple of interesting things about that. One is that nobody said, like, what school teaches you. But
teach them how to sit down for 8 hours a day.
Yeah. But another thing about that, though, we were looking at like what actually is the trait. What are the traits that make somebody successful in adulthood? And there was some research about this, and the one thing that stuck out was children who can delay gratification become more successful than other children. And that was, I guess, an eye-opening kind of thing. And there's like a famous study about this, whatever. And so I think that's one of the things that people just are really impulsive. They want to have everything now. And so you see people who are a lot more inclined to, like, play the lottery or do some kind of, like, get rich quick thing or whatever it is, right? Then put in the work that it takes to actually be successful.
Yeah, that's good. That's interesting. Delayed gratification.
Delayed gratification was the number one thing that actually set these kids apart from other kids.
Wow, that's interesting.
So, yeah, it is interesting.
Okay.
So,
and then also you said, so the first thing you said going into this one was seeking comfort. That's interesting. We do get comfortable with being comfortable. And I think and I'm glad you brought that one up. One of the biggest things is knowing, like, I think that's one of the things that kind of denotes a man. The difference between a man and a boy is responsibility, and responsibility in one way you can kind of define it is doing what's necessary regardless, right? And it kind of bleeds into some of the other things that we're going to talk about as well. But one of my biggest pet peeves, and I do it sometimes, but is making excuses, right? Oh man, like, I'm so hard on people. Okay, so here's the thing. Like, I might get canceled. I might get in trouble for saying this. I get in trouble all the time for saying stuff like this. But I'm really hard on, like, my family, my friends, and especially, like, my Black family and friends when they say certain things, when they use certain crutches and stuff like that. And I'm just like, bro, like, you a grown man, you're a grown woman. There's no one or nothing holding you back but you.
Yeah.
Go out and make it happen. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm super hard on people that make excuses about anything. There's some legitimate reasons and things why people and things happen. Okay, that happens to all of us. But for the most part, you are in control. You make decisions. You might have had a string of bad decisions that led to something, but at the end of the day, it comes back to you doing what you need to do, stepping out of your comfort zone, doing what's necessary, taking responsibility, and making something sometimes out of nothing, but making the best out of your situation. So anyway, it's my little soapbox.
Yeah. Well, okay. So that's another one of the laws of mediocrity, which is blaming others.
Yeah. Okay.
And so
I see that. Yeah.
Yes. So the extreme ownership is a concept that I think is really important for people to learn. And so I know people like that too, always making excuses. It's always somebody else's fault that something happened. It's never their fault. It's never that they did something wrong. It's always, well, my landlord did this, or my boss did this, or somebody I work with did this thing and messed up everything, whatever it is. But I think taking ownership of everything that in your life, even if it doesn't make sense, even if it's not directly your fault, if you take ownership of that thing and you say, okay, what can I do differently, then you take all the power back from everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you blame other people for stuff, you give them the power over your life.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's somebody else's fault that you didn't get this job, or you didn't, your business didn't succeed or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Then whoever that other person is the person who has control over
Yep.
you. So if you just say, okay, it all comes back to me. What can I do differently? I see entrepreneurs doing this a lot too. It's like, well, my employees aren't any good. They messed this thing up or whatever. But really, it comes back to management. It goes back to you choosing the right people.
Who trained them?
Yeah, all of that stuff. So like, you can always take ownership of things. So you have to take ownership of everything that you can. I think that's an important thing that sets people apart. And the people who can't do that are just not going to be successful. And I think we should define success real quick for just to that we're all talking about the same thing. But good. I think success is just hitting whatever goal it is that you have. So it doesn't matter what that goal is. We're not just talking about financial success or whatever. It can be anything. Whatever that is, success is reaching the goals that you have. So if somebody else is causing you not to be able to reach that, then they have control over your success. So you have to figure out what you can do differently and take ownership of everything that happens and say, okay, well, somebody rear-ended me. Okay, well, that's not my fault, but what could I have done differently? Mm-hmm. What could I maybe, I don't know what it is, but maybe there are things that are going to happen that are outside of your control. But if you take ownership of everything that you can, then it's going to give you a whole lot more power and control in your life too.
That's good. And if you think about that with taking ownership, think about it as like a business owner. Take ownership of everything. In preparing for a business, like when you used to work in the store at your mobile home community, y'all had the store, y'all sold parts and stuff like that. You would come in, you would turn on the lights, take inventory, pay bills, read emails. There was a protocol, there was a process, right? That you took very serious in order for this thing to really run correct. And you would try to minimize, you would try to, look at numbers, look at trends to see where you can do better, how you can improve in certain areas, how you can invest better and stuff like that. And I think if you look at your life from that perspective about taking complete ownership, it can make things a lot more clear, right? So no matter what you do, no matter what your goals are, if you look at it like, okay, what am I trying to accomplish? How do I get better? How can I improve? Who can I help? Who can I recruit to help? How can I train? What books can I read? What exercises do I need to do? What holes do I have in my bucket? Like looking at life and situations from that whole, like even if you're just starting with your family, like so as a man, as a father, having a family, wife and kids and stuff like that, and a household to run, we have family meetings, and we talk about stuff, and everybody has like an assignment, a role, their value, they have weight, and like my house doesn't run like a business, but everyone kind of understands who they are, what's going on in the day to day. We have a calendar, like it's like a microcosm of a business, right? And then with my own life, it's the same way. Like I get up, I have routine. There's certain things I check in with. I have business partners I talk with for accountability purposes, for benchmarks and stuff like that. So the more control you have, the more intentionality you have over your life in everyday situations, the less control you give to extenuating circumstances. Yeah. And also, but when those things do happen, then then you just deal with them from there. But those things are a lot less likely to happen. Extenuating circumstances are a lot less likely to happen if you do take control prophylactically on the front end, right?
Yeah, for sure. And you can't make adjustments to what you're doing if you're always blaming somebody else for whatever happened, right? So you have to look inward and look at yourself for that stuff too. So it's That's not good. Yeah. Anyway, okay. So another one that we talked about is resistance to change. So
that's a big one.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are resistant to change, and I just kind of briefly looked this up, and I found out that 70% of the time when people try to change, they fail. So what is it that causes us to not want to, or to not be able to take the next step forward? What is it that causes that for people, you think?
And I think it's kind of like I was saying earlier, some of this stuff bleeds into other ones. It's fear,
I think so too.
You good?
Yeah. I think it's fear too.
You sound like the monster in my nightmare. He was like, I think so too.
Well, I think it's fear, but it's also just people get stuck in habits, and it's really hard to break old habits.
Yeah.
You know?
Also, belief is a big thing. A lot of people might not think that they can truly accomplish. We have a lot of dreamers, and not a lot of doers. Right. And I think a lot of people like to dream because in a dream you can be and do whatever you want to do. You can accomplish it. Right.
Yeah.
But when it comes to reality, it's like, okay, back to reality. Oh, there goes gravity. Right. And so I think it's a belief. I don't think a lot of people really believe in themselves. You know, things can be challenging. Challenges are tough, and people look at them. We're our biggest critics. Our biggest, enemies a lot of times, and we see we know our own inadequacies and shortcomings. So it's like, can I really be the president of the United States? Nah, do I really want to be the president? Like, so think about it. So you're of age now where you could be the president, right? You're an American citizen. You're born in America. You're at least 35 years old, and all this other stuff, right? Lines up.
Okay.
Do you think that you could be the president of the United States?
Could I be?
Yeah.
Yeah, if I had enough money, enough financial backing
for marketing and stuff like that. Let's just say you were in the seat. You think you could, you know what I'm saying?
It's definitely possible.
Yeah.
That would be terrible.
Yeah.
I would not want to do that.
It probably wouldn't be a good idea for the rest of the country, but
well, it might be actually. I'll just make everything legal. Yeah. What's the libertarian saying? Our goal is to take over the world and then leave you alone.
Yeah.
That would be my slogan right there. Elect me, I will leave you alone.
I will leave you alone. That's what every man wants anyway.
I might actually have to run for local office under that platform.
Yeah,
like elect me and I will leave you alone.
This is Keith Hannon. He approves this message. It's coming up, man. Next year. Yeah. Is it next year? Is it?
Yeah, I think
2024.
So. Yeah.
Okay. All right. But obviously you're a pretty confident guy, things like that. But most people just don't believe in themselves. They don't really see themselves as that in that role that they really want to be. So they just like, you know what? Instead of wasting my time and energy, I'm not even going to try to set foot in that direction because I don't want to be let down again. Is what it seems to be most of the time, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, probably it comes back to a fear of failure a lot of the time. Yeah. Okay, so what about this one? We said surrounding yourself with people who are not better than you. So if you want to be mediocre, surround yourself with people who are mediocre, right?
Yeah. That's gonna hit home with a lot of folks.
Yeah.
Because of tradition, for one. Let's just say you had a group of friends that you grew up with. You know?
Yeah.
And some of them aren't doing anything, aren't doing a whole lot. They don't have a lot of ambition is what I'll say. They might be happy and everything, but let's just say they procrastinate. You know, they're not trying to grow. They're not trying to, you know what I'm saying? They don't have a lot of goals. They're just good, just kind of where they are, which is fine. But if that's not where you want to be, then it's like, ooh, that's where you're going to be. You know what I'm saying? What'd you think about it?
Well, you know, there's the saying that you're the average of the 5 closest people to you. I think that is true in a lot of ways. There was I saw this video a long time ago. It was, I think, Steve Trang who posted this, and he went around his office and he was like, he had this guy. He was like, "How much money do you make right now?" The guy's like, "I'm like 125,000." He's like, "All right, who are your 5 closest people?" And he listed them out. He's like, "All right, let's go talk to him." So he went and talked to the first guy. He's like, "How much money did you make last year?" He's like, "Oh, I made $100,000. Okay, next guy. "How much money did you make last year?" "I made 130. "How much do you make next year?" Last year, it was all of them. The average was almost exactly to the dollar amount.
Wow.
The first guy's salary.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and so I think that is true in a lot of ways, and I think we get comfortable around. This comes back to comfort. Probably we get comfortable around people like that, people who are on our same level. We're not challenged by that.
That's it.
So it's easy for us to do that. And whenever you surround yourself with people who are doing bigger stuff than you, then you get a lot of inspiration, education, motivation to do things, to go forward and do bigger and better things. And I think it's just easier for us to stay in our, in our normal environment instead of trying to go out and find people who are better than us so we can learn from them and grow that way.
You see that a lot in the sports world. Also, where people play to the level of their competition.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I see it a lot in families where there's a lot of siblings. I know so many families where the youngest sibling ends up being the most dominant athlete or the most talented whatever. And it's because they had to fight to be on par with their other siblings. So then when it comes back to their age group and their little demographic, they're just dominant. You see that stuff a lot. Also even in parenting, I've seen mothers and fathers get around people that are a little bit more, they have their stuff a little bit more together and stuff like that, and they kind of rate, and vice versa. Mm-hmm. Depending on what neighborhood people are living in and stuff. I see stuff like that all the time. So that I love that. I can see that practically now that I'm actually thinking about it.
Well, it's kind of like if you only played chess with people who had a lower rating than you. I don't know how chess rating can work, but I'm thinking that's the thing.
It's definitely a thing.
Okay.
You'll love it.
So if you only played chess with people at a lower rating than you probably wouldn't get a whole lot better.
Yeah.
But if you start playing better competition, you have to figure out ways to be more, I don't know what you have to do in chess, but more creative, I guess. Figure out better ways to play, better strategy, so then it makes you a better player.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
I think that's true in a lot of different things.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the difference between only hearing positive feedback versus constructive criticism, right? If you were, and it's funny when you were telling that story about playing down in chess, playing people that are below me. You was like, so what would that do for you? I was like, I'll probably feel great, It's like I'm winning all the time. But what is that doing for me?
Yeah.
Like you said, it's not challenging. I'm not seeing my weaknesses. I just think I'm a big fish in a small pond.
Yeah.
Type of thing. And there is, and there's a a scripture that I love that says a wise man loves rebuke. A wise man loves rebuke. And it makes a lot of sense to me because the more I live, the more I learn, the more I realize that I need to be a student and keep learning and keep growing and stuff like that, right? Pain, losses, constructive criticism are all opportunities for growth, right? I can't think of an area in any life or anything where pain isn't the precursor to growth.
Yeah.
Even in your human body, you know what I'm saying? You got growing pains, stuff like that, building muscle, it's the muscle breaking down so it can rebuild, things like that. And, so what's so funny? You laughing at me?
I was just thinking about our CrossFit days. So.
Oh.
We used to go work out together. Anyway.
This dude.
Go ahead.
Anyway, so yeah, I like that Russ threw that in there about it's good to hear that constructive criticism.
Yeah, it is. It's important. And I think whenever you become an entrepreneur, if you're like the boss, and it's hard to find that from the people who are around you at work, right? So like you have to go out and actually ask for it, and like, hey, what can I do better? What can I fix? And then you have to also set up a culture where people are not afraid to give you that feedback. But I think about like there's this stereotype, and maybe it's true in a lot of ways. I don't necessarily think it's just women, but I think about like a group of women sitting around gossiping, like talking about each other's, business or whatever. And like, really they're all searching for this positive feedback from their group of friends. And a lot of times whenever you really want to level up and go to the next level, you have to get rid of those people and find people who are not afraid to, talk to you about your stuff instead of sitting around with your old friends talking about everybody else's stuff, pretend like you don't have the same stuff going on. So
yeah. No, that's true.
Think that's common thing.
Bro, that's really good. And that's why it's really important that you develop a culture within yourself that says, hey, I trust you. I know you have good intentions. You're not trying to hurt me. I welcome criticism.
Yeah.
Some people are completely closed off. I know some people that I can't tell them nothing about nothing.
Yep.
Because they are just like, don't tell me nothing. I ain't
true.
trying to. I'm just like, okay. All right. Well.
But those people are probably the ones who will be mad whenever you are really successful and you have big wins and you can't go to them because they're going to be upset about it. They're going to be envious and not,
Yeah.
And then they're going to be gossiping about you with their friends. So.
Maybe, yeah. Yeah, but that's good. That's a good nugget right there.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
All right. So another one that we have here is lack of discipline. I think this one is a big one.
Yeah, that's very common.
It's very common. Yeah, most people have no discipline at all, actually.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So, I remember like working at the gym in the gym business. It's something like 90. I don't have the number right in front of me. It's something like 95% of people who lose weight gain it all back later.
Really?
Yeah, it's a huge number.
Dang.
I remember.
That's like everybody.
I remember Weight Watchers did a study, or somebody did a study on Weight Watchers, and I think it was actually Weight Watchers. Russ, maybe you can look this up. I think it was Weight Watchers that did this study, and they tried to spin it and say that like X amount of people lose weight, but the study actually showed that 95% of people who lost weight on the program gained it all back within a year or something like that.
Gained it all back.
Yeah, and I think this is common it doesn't matter what the program is. I'm not bashing Weight Watchers.
Right.
It's just that people lack discipline, so they have. That's why these challenges are so helpful for people in the short term. People can do a 30 or 60-day challenge, but then what happens after that? Like, if they don't do another one, then a lot of times they'll just go right back into their old habits and then gain all the weight back, right? Or and I'm just using fitness as an example because I saw that a lot. I think that is a big thing. Being consistent over time in anything is very difficult. And so, the lack of discipline, I think, is a real big one for people.
And I think what needs to happen for people to kind of sustain that disciplinary lifestyle is, I think you have to start it off the right way. I think you have to see yourself for who you want to be and how you want to be, and not just say, I'm gonna do this for 6 weeks and get through it so I can receive this goal. I think it needs to be like a lifestyle type of thing that you're trying to train yourself, right? So like you said, people can do a 30, 60-day, 90-day challenge, and it's like, oh, I finally finished. Let me go celebrate by doing everything that I had gotten away from for the past 90 days.
Yep.
You just wasted 90 days.
Right.
Right? That discipline and the challenge should build a desire for you to be this type of disciplined person. Like, the reward is you being a different person.
Right.
We were talking about it the other day about these challenges, about having challenges for, people have challenges for all kinds of stuff, and it's cash at the end and everything. That cash is just a byproduct. It's a bonus of who you have become. That's the real reward right there. So I think if people really went into these challenges and looked at disciplines differently, it's like, okay, I want to be a healthy person. I don't want to lose. Okay, I might lose 30 pounds in 90 days, but I want to be a healthy person. Yeah. I want to maintain this lifestyle. This is who I want to be. Like, if we went into it like that, then I think that'll really help these disciplines to stick a little bit,
So, yeah, whenever I was training, we would put people on like just a whole foods diet. It was not anything specific. We didn't have people count calories and all this kind of stuff because most people won't stick to that. The easiest and simplest thing that I ever found was, here's a list of foods to eat. Just stick with this stuff. And all it is whole foods, meat, vegetables, fruits, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So for the vast majority of people, they got really good results just from doing that. There was a few people that I work with who were super disciplined, and they wanted to go really, really, extreme one way or the other, whatever it was. And they would, want to count calories and all this stuff. And you can do that, but most people are not going to stick to that. Most people, if you just give them a basic outline, they can do that for an amount of time. But the people who are not successful long term, I could always tell because they would use language like, oh, it's this diet I'm on, or like, oh, I can't even eat this stuff anymore, or I can't do this thing that I used to do. And they're always like, like, oh, I can't wait till this is over so I can do that.
Yep.
And so that would happen a lot.
Yeah.
Like, I would get that a lot. And the way that I always tell people is, you can't change a body that you hate, right? You can't fix a body you hate because it's always going to be a problem for you. So you have to change your mindset on this stuff. You have to think, instead of saying, oh, I can't have ice cream right now because I'm on this diet, you need to say, I don't eat ice cream. I eat this stuff, or I don't eat candy bars, or I don't drink soda,
Yeah.
So like, if you want to make those changes and make them last, you have to make it your identity. It has to become
identity,
part of who you are. So you have to. What was the return on identity?
ROI.
You need to get a better ROI. Yeah.
Well, and it makes sense too if you think about it, because if you're just doing it just to get through it, then what are you really investing? That's not a good investment of your time and energy. But if you really want to change your identity, which is such a good way to put it, then you're investing more. That's a better investment.
It starts with changing your beliefs about yourself. It starts with self-talk, and like that stuff sounds frou-frou, sounds kind of stupid, but like it really is important for you to change the way that you think in order to change your actions, in order to create new habits, in order to become this new person.
Yeah. Your philosophy does have to change.
Yeah. So you have to change the way that you talk about yourself, the way that you think about yourself. And I think that is, when we're talking about discipline, that's maybe the number one thing that stops people, because they don't actually change their identity. They just they try to force themselves to do a certain thing for a certain amount of time, but then that just goes away and comes back, and you wind up with 95% of people gaining the weight back.
Yep. I can see that. Dang, that's crazy, man. Numbers don't lie.
Yep.
Wow.
So okay, so we got a couple others. One other that kind of plays into what we talked about before, one of these other laws of mediocrity is if you want to be mediocre, then you need to stop learning. You need to know it all, right? This is something that I think is very common. So,
dang,
what is it that they say the average person reads how many books a year? What is that number, Russ? Can you find that? I remember
I don't know.
that the average CEO reads like 60 books a year.
Oh, the average CEO reads. Oh, yeah. It's some Warren Buffett reads like,
he reads like 4 hours a day. He's like notorious for that. So the average person reads about 4 books a year. And the average CEO, I think it's like 60 books a year.
The proof is in the pudding, right?
Yeah. So that's the people who are the most successful are always learning something new, not just in business, but also in life in general. The people who are the happiest, who are the most content, I guess, are the most the happiest with what they have going on, are the people who are always learning. They're always trying to get better, trying to learn new things.
Yeah. I mean, because they're constantly exercising their brain, which is so vital. They constantly do. So if you think about someone so we're just talking about health, it just seems like an easy thing to do. You don't see the healthiest people in the world just doing bench press every day, right? They work out 3 to 4 times a week or whatever. There's a diet regimen in place. There's rest. It's a full scale type of thing. It's a whole program, a whole lifestyle. So for these successful CEOs, it's a whole lifestyle. It's like, you know what? Like, this is who I am. I have to constantly be investing in myself in different aspects. Let me work on this part of my body. Let me work on that part of my body. Let me incorporate some of this. Let me try some of that, type of thing. So, I mean, the proof is in the pudding when it comes to that.
Yeah. I think continual learning is one of the things that's like super important for everybody. And I can always tell whenever I meet people and they're like, they know everything already, I know I'm sure you know people like that. And that is super frustrating because most of the time, you say a lot, people don't know what they don't know. And that is a big problem for a lot of people. So they think that they understand, things that they have never studied that they don't really understand. And then if they go into business, especially, or some kind of relationship or whatever it is, then the things that they don't know are the things that become their downfall, right?
And then they end up blaming it on somebody else.
And then they blame it on somebody else.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the thing, man. It's a whole arrogance and pride and narcissism that comes with that. Like, one of my favorite, it's cliche and cute now, but if you think you know it all, then you won't grow at all.
That's good.
And we talked about how important growth is and what it takes to grow and everything like that. So I don't know, maybe people that think they know it all and don't really invest in doing that stuff, maybe it comes from a deeper insecurity. Maybe it's just like, I don't know.
So let's talk about this idea of complacency or that you're good enough, because that's another one of the laws that we wrote down. If you want to stay mediocre, then always think that you're good enough at what you do, that you don't have to get better. Not thinking that you're good enough as a person. That's a different thing, right?
Right.
But that your skills are
Skill
good
set.
enough and you don't have to get better because you're already good enough. And I think the people who are the best at whatever it is, the people who are the most successful, we talk about like Kobe Bryant and Jerry Rice and these guys, Tom Brady, the people who are at the top of the sports game, whatever their game is, they're always working to try to get better. Even at 40 years old, they're trying to figure out how can they do better than they did at 39. So
awesome.
Yeah. So like Tom Brady, I remember watching his thing about him running the 40. He ran like a faster 40 time at 40 years old than he did in his combine.
When he was at 22.
Yeah. So like
he was so goofy and uncoordinated. He looked like an ostrich going down the track. A newborn ostrich.
Yeah. But I think that the people who are the most successful, no matter what it is, they're not content with where they are. The contentment is a weird thing because I think what it is they're content, but they're not complacent.
Yeah.
They're content. They're happy with their lives, but they're not complacent. They know that they can still move forward.
You know, but here's the thing. You really do have, so this comes with preparation again when you think about it. How can you be content without being complacent? I think when you have a bigger picture where you know what you're working towards or where you're going, if your goal was to lose 30 pounds in a year and you was like, all right, I want to lose, okay, just quick math, 30, what's that, 15, I don't know what it is, 3 times, that's 39. Okay, let's just say 3 pounds per month, right?
Okay.
3 times
36.
Okay, yeah. So let's say you want to lose 3 pounds, and so your goal was to lose 36 pounds, right? Yeah. And 3 months in, you've lost 9 pounds, right? You're content because you're on track, right? But you're not complacent because you know where you're trying to go and what you need to get to.
You're not stopping there.
You're not stopping there.
Right.
So this goes back to my preparation and success only comes by preparation and planning and stuff like that is if you don't have a bigger picture, if you're a big fish in a small pond, if you know what I'm saying, if you don't have any real something that you're going towards, then it's like, okay, I'm good. I lost 9 pounds. That's the most weight I've ever lost ever. Okay. But you haven't reached your goal. Do you even have a goal? Type of thing. This lesson right here, but my mom told me this 30 plus years ago, right? I was playing basketball. I was on track to go to the NBA, you know, but then, you know, how my shoulder set up, you know what I'm saying? I'll let y'all have that. But anyway, my mom,
that old shoulder injury.
You know, my bum shoulder. I can say that now.
Bum shoulder.
Yeah, my bum back in my day, you know, running wishbone, you know. But anyway,
running the wishbone,
wing tee.
God.
Anyway, my mom told me a long time ago. She said, so first let me set it up by saying this. I'm a middle child, right?
Okay.
So I was not that. My sister was the oldest. She was the only girl. So and she was super talented and smart. My brother was the baby. He could do no wrong. So I'm in the middle. So I'm just like, they didn't care about me, right? All my life I had to fight, you know. But anyway, so my mom looked at me square in the face. She said, "D, no matter what you do, no matter where you go, there's always gonna be somebody better than you at what you do." I was like, ooh, and that gave me perspective. She wasn't saying that to put me down. She said it to kind of give me some humility at a young age because, you know, between me and my brother, I was a better basketball player. I was all like, yeah. She was like, no matter what you do, it's going to always be somebody better than you. I was like, okay. And it made me work hard at something I was passionate about. It made me, you know, and also, but kept me humble.
It was me. I was the one who was better.
But I think a good way to avoid, but a lot of people do think, just because they're the best in their neighborhood or whatever, and like, what are you? We gotta be better than that. We gotta dream. Like
John even if you're at the top, you still can get better. You still have to work on trying to get better. So like the people who are, I think, stuck in mediocrity, a lot of those people are not really trying to get better. They may want to get better. You talked earlier about like you may want everything, but if you don't prepare for it, it doesn't matter. So like. I know a lot of people who are like, yeah, I want to be better at this or that or whatever, but they're not really doing anything to get better. They're not like taking a course. They're not practicing every day. They're not doing the things that need to be done in order to get better. Even some of our students in our course, you know, we talk to them a lot about like, hey, it doesn't matter if you want to go get a deal. You have to learn how to run the numbers, and you got to go and practice this. The way that you learn it is doing it over and over and over and over again.
That, bro, the key. We talking about practice.
That's
what we talking about. In order, not a game. We're not talking about getting a deal. We talking about practice. Yeah,
practice.
Yeah. I was looking for an opportunity to say that for so long. Shout out to AI and them 98, 99. 97.
Speaking of basketball players who are better than you.
Right, yeah. That dude, I remember when the crossover and everything, the braids, that dude, he changed the game. And he didn't practice, you know?
Yeah, he was that good all the time. So, but I remember Kobe talking about Shaq, and somebody asked him, maybe it was Patrick David, I don't remember. He was in an interview, and he was like, hey, how good would Shaq have been if he had your work ethic? And he was like, he would have been the best player to ever play, no doubt. There would have been no competition for him. But he didn't. He didn't work hard. He worked hard, but he didn't work harder than anybody else. He was in the middle of the road as far as that goes, according to Kobe, right? So he never reached, like, we don't talk about him as the greatest player of all time. He's not even in the conversation.
Don't even come up.
Not even in the conversation. And he probably would have been had he been a little bit better at, you know, free throws and like a few different aspects of his game that he didn't really practice.
Right. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Like gosh. But then we have people that aren't the most gifted that end up becoming the greatest of all time because practice. Yeah. They prepare.
Yeah.
They're not complacent,
right?
And they're not
always trying to get better.
They're not even content. That's to be the GOAT.
Yeah,
you can't even be content.
Well, I think you have to also, maybe we should mention that not everybody. It's not, you don't have to want that, right? So maybe Shaq got to where he wanted and he was successful in his mind, and that's all he wanted. He didn't want to go any farther than that. I don't know. So, and you know, same thing in business. Like maybe you don't want to go to $1 billion a year because what it takes to get there, you're not willing to do that. And that's fine.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that at all. So that goes back to our measure of what success means, which is hitting your goals, whatever your goals are. If your goals are to stay mediocre, maybe these are the things you need to do. But if your goals are to do something better than that, something bigger, whatever it is, then you have to be able to put in the work. You have to always try to get better.
That's good. That's good. So, and I think the main thing I take from that is have a plan, have a goal first of all.
Yeah.
You know, and then go from there.
So last one that we have on our list here is scarcity mindset. And I think maybe a reason that people don't try to go farther is that they don't think that they can. And this idea of scarcity mindset versus an abundance mindset is something that you hear a lot in business. And you don't really hear a lot of other places. But, you know, the people who have scarcity mindset think that, you know, if you're getting a bigger piece of the pie, then they can't have it. So you're holding them down or, you know, whatever it is. They think that there's only so much there and there's not enough for them. Or there's not enough for them to do the thing that they want to do, right? And I think that is one of the things that really holds people back because they just think they can't get whatever it is, right? It's already taken. They can't get there. I was going to say the people who have an abundance mindset think that there's enough there for everybody. There's enough out there that everybody can be successful. We can all share in that success. And it's a whole different mindset. And I think that we talked a little bit about that when we were talking about money, you know, that people think that there's a certain amount of money, and if you get more of it, then they can't have that much. And there's like people who are taking their piece of the pie, and it's not really how money works. So people, then you think about people who are willing to just like give all of their secrets and like always be able to share everything that they have. You know, we talked about like when people come by in Jessup in our office, we always try to give as much information as we can because we know at the end of the day, they may be competitors technically, but at the end of the day, we're all just trying to be better and be more successful. So the more that we can help each other, the better it is, and the better it is for everybody. So I think those are the two different mindsets that you have to think about. And people who are mediocre most of the time have that scarcity mindset, and people who are not mediocre, who are above average, who are the ones who are like defying the laws of mediocrity, they have an abundance mindset most of the time, and they're always willing to help each other. they're always willing to move forward. I think a lot of people have this idea too that like people who are rich don't want to share their secrets, don't want to help other people. Most of the time, if you ask somebody to tell their story of how they got successful, they're going to be happy to share it.
Yep.
And they're going to hope that you go out and do it too. And they're not going to be envious if you go out and surpass them. That's they're fine with that because they know there's enough for everybody.
Because of that mindset. And that's part of the reason why they are successful is because they have that mindset. Right. You know, and that's the thing, man. There are more wealthy people that are philanthropists than poor people, right?
Yeah, almost 100%.
Almost 100%.
So when I was in college, I was in a philosophy class, and this guy, I don't know if I've told this story before on here, but
ooh, I'm ready. I like stories. Let's do it.
There was a guy. We had a philosophy class, and he brought in sort of an somebody with an antithetical viewpoint. It was like the other side of the story, I guess, and so he brought in this economics professor, and so we're in a philosophy class about ethics, and the economics professor came in and he said, "Everybody in here, what is your goal? Your goal is to help people to be able to, make humanity better in some way." And he was like, "If you want to make humanity better, you want to help people, then first you have to become a millionaire, and then once you get to that point, then you can really help people." But you're not going to make a big impact until you become wealthy. And I thought that was interesting. And then he told the story of why money's not evil. And it was interesting because everybody was like, "Oh my God, this is so terrible." And then he was like, "Okay, well, what's your argument?" Nobody had an argument.
Let's go.
So it was really interesting. But anyway, I just thought it was interesting that he said that, and I think that comes back to this. Like most of the time, if people are like really wanting to like help, the poor, help somebody who doesn't have as much as they do, but the way to be able to give to those people is to be able to have that money to be able to give, or have the resources, not necessarily money, but have the resources that they can give to people. And if you have a scarcity mindset, then it derails the whole thing. Right?
It does, yeah. Like none of this really works if you have that scarcity mindset. I like that. Golly, that dude said, and that's one thing I talk to my kids about all the time. I tell them it's your responsibility to be successful. The bigger heart you have, the more successful you almost have to be so that you can fulfill the desires.
Yeah.
And I tell them, I was like, that's why I'm teaching you guys at a young age how to make money, how to get passive income so that you can go out and do the things that you want to do, the things that you feel like you're called to do, like this purposeful life. I think a lot of people, and it's not their faults, when you're young, they just don't have the same exposure. But a lot of people spend most of their time like living and surviving instead of doing what they feel like they're called to do because they just don't have the resources, right? So that's why I teach my kids. I'm like, look, I want y'all to start off on the right foot. I want y'all to be able to make mistakes, experiment, and because my son was like, he's 14. He said, "Man, I have no idea what I want to do when I grow up." I said, "Look, I was 35 and didn't know what I want to do when I grew up." You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like
I know.
people going to college with undecided majors.
Yeah.
People change and
I
stuff.
had 5 different majors, I think.
You know what I'm
4 or
saying?
5.
So like I was like, but at the end of the day, I want you to have the freedom to be able to explore. If you want to go to trade school, if you want to travel, if you want to, whatever the case may be. Anyway, so yeah, that's you got to have these resources and everything. But then also, and he asked me the question. He said, "Do you ever worry about being greedy?" I said, "No, that's not." I said, "I believe that money magnifies who you are." Right.
Yep.
My heart and desire is to serve people. That's why I want money, so I can provide for y'all, so I can have the freedom and flexibility to do things for what and like I want to give. What good is hoarding everything, right? And I know this is not what we were kind of talking about, but I think it kind of go with the abundant mindset. It's like I believe, and that's why I kind of led into the whole thing about 99% of philanthropists are wealthy, right?
Yeah.
So like, I believe seed is given to the sower. Like, give me more so I can do more, so I can reach more. Because, I don't trust other. I know me. I know what my desires are. I know what my passions are. I know my intentions are good. like me giving money or trusting some other entity to do something. You know what I'm saying? Like, how about let me build something because I know where it started. I know what the intentions are and stuff like that. But yeah, you're right though. This one right here, that abundance mindset was totally foreign to me. Mm-hmm. It was totally foreign.
I think for most people it
is. It was to give. And so now when I see people now that have, like, I can recognize people that have this abundant mindset, people like that teach and give their information for free. Mm-hmm. I was on a call this past week about some kind of coaching program, and these guys were like, yeah, we give away all these free tools. You know, we just want people in our course. You know, they can pay a monthly fee to stay in our course, but like I give away all this information. I was like, what in the world? They're like, yeah, we give it away. You know, that's crazy to me. Yeah. And that was so foreign to me because I grew up in an environment where it was more of a survival type of thing, and it felt like there wasn't enough. It was everything we could do to provide for us four and no more, right?
Yeah, there's a great book that I've been reading, and it's 10x is easier than 2x, and there's a part of that. One of the big philosophies they talk about is operating out of need instead of want, and operating out of want instead of need. So people who have a scarcity mindset, they always are like trying to just meet their basic necessities in their mind. And it doesn't matter if they get, like, if they had everything that they need, actually, it always feels like they don't have enough. They're always like, oh man, I'm just barely getting by, you know? And then other people who have more of an abundance mindset, they're like, okay, I want to go to this level, so I'm going to operate at this level. I'm going to go ahead and get the things that I want because that's what I want, and it's okay for me to want that stuff. Yeah. And I think that that's part of the sort of abundance mindset that you have to have in order to be successful. And most people don't. Most people are always like feeling like they don't have enough. They're always like anxious about the next paycheck or whatever it is, right? And I think that's a big problem. So that's one of the things, if you want to be mediocre, you can just have that scarcity mindset.
That's it. And there you go. I just want so procrastination, resistance to change, surrounding yourself with people who are not better than you, comfort or fighting to be comfort, or seeking comfort or whatever. I can't remember how we said it. You said it better than that. Impulsive, good enough, about good being the antithesis of great, blaming others, scarcity mindset, and stop learning.
Yep, and lack of discipline.
I guess I missed that one. But yeah, those things, if these things are abundant, like they were in my life, I was, and here's the thing, it's an everyday discipline to rise above these things right here. The propensity is always there to procrastinate, to resist change, to be impulsive, to not have discipline. You know what I'm saying? Like that stuff is always there, right? It's always creeping at the door. But I think the most important thing you can do is have a goal, have a plan, something you work towards, reverse engineer it, and then go from there and every day move towards that, improving yourself, recruiting other people to help, recruiting external things to help, you know, stuff like that, and just keep moving in that direction. Yep. And you will stay off of the broad and easy way of mediocrity.
Yep.
You know?
There you go. Yeah. That's it. All right. Have fun.
Deuces.
See y'all later.